Our second ladies match about to commence now with Judy McRae.
Judy McRae was the third qualifier, averaging 189.7. 43-year-old from Blacktown in Sydney.
And Judy's just changed over to a hook ball. She used to throw what's called a backup ball or a reverse hook ball, where she delivered it from the left-hand side of the lane. It went across to the right-hand side. Now she's doing it the traditional way, let's say normal way with inverted commas around it, like most of the other bowlers. And she's finding form quite nicely in the last couple of months.
Debbie Biviano, this lady. She was, in fact, the top qualifier. 193.6 over her 7 games to qualify.
And she's bowling very, very well since she's gone on a good crash diet. She's lost a lot of weight in the last few months. But Judy McRae just missing that pin by centimetres. Quite often we say, Lee, that if that pin had had another coat of paint, she would have got that.
And certainly that was true there. It almost looked like it was going to go. The breeze that went by.
Debbie Biviano, good concentration, very good push away, pushing it to the right. That's the way to go. And boy, she's bowling well. 193 average in the qualifying, and just a couple of weeks ago she finished second to the great Ruth Gerster of Tasmania in the 1986 Sunshine Special up at Clayfield in Brisbane. What a good performance that was by young Debbie, only 24. Bowl against a woman of Ruth Gerster's experience and come second was a great effort, and certainly spurred her on to good form in this tournament here at Newcastle. Well, after the first game of the tournament, Debbie Biviano was tied with Cheryl Lee for third place, and Judy McRae was second in the tournament behind Liz Vanderhorst with a 202 game. So very important match for both of these to try and stay in touch with the top 2 positions.
Certainly is.
Judy's opened disastrously. 2 strikes up against her, and she's had 2 open frames, missing both spares just by a coat of paint.
Debbie Biviano, as Steve said, bowled a 194 in her opening game and won. And she started out tops here in game number 2 for her.
Yes, she
2 strikes.
Don't start out any better than that. Let's see if she can put her head on it, get another one. No, she pulled the ball across to the left of the 1 pin, and she's left 2 in the middle of the pin deck, the pin numbers 5 and 9. She shouldn't have too much trouble covering this spare. And Judy very proudly wearing a shirt that she got up at the Singapore Asian Zone Championships.
That's the 5 pin standing, has she, Steve?
Yes, the 5 pin. Not bringing her any luck, that shirt, is it?
No, certainly not. She did bowl a 202 first time out.
Well, the reason I mentioned the thing about shirts is that bowlers are a pretty superstitious bunch. You know, sometimes they have a favourite pair of socks that they wear, or a favourite shirt that they seem to bowl better in. Anything that's a good psychological help in 10-pin bowling should certainly be followed through by bowlers.
Judy McRae again. Look at that style. On line this time.
Yeah, she certainly is. 30 pins in arrears after 2 frames, though. 48 plays 18, but she's opening her account now with a spare in the 3rd. Debbie Biviano. She's a single bank clerk from Sydney. Star signs Aries, a 276, the highest game. 701 is her best 3-game series. Anything over 700 is a great score, and obviously an accomplished bowler can do that. 888 is her best series for 4 games.
She lets it go nicely, left to a very difficult split there now.
Yes, it certainly did look good on the way down, Lee, and I don't blame you for saying what a great-looking ball it was.
Certainly looked the part, didn't it?
When it hit, didn't do anything. Left 3 pins in the middle of the deck. Judy McRae, chance to catch up. Oh, she's almost done the same thing, but she got away with it.
Just left the 1 upright. Now, Biviano with this split, Steve, this is difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, she's going to have to hit to the left of that pin in the centre. Left of centre. She's going for it. Oh, good try.
A little bit too far left.
Yes, the lanes were oiled just before the ladies' final commenced. They've only had this 2nd game on them now, and they're very, very oily for the ladies. They're not quite used to it yet. Of course, there's not as much carry. There's not as much pin action when the lanes are oily, but they're going to dry out with the TV lights. Very hot day here in Newcastle.
It certainly is warm outside and warm in here, as you point out, with the lights. The extra lighting on the lanes, of course, for the TV cameras. This is Debbie Biviano. Carrying that wrist guard, and it's certainly a solid-looking guard the lady's wearing.
Yes, that keeps her wrist in a good firm position and gives her a little bit of extra strength there. And look at that. That's great pin action. And certainly a result of a very good wrist support that she has on there. Quite legal, and of course Judy's got one too. Not quite as solid looking, but one that's been around on the market for quite a while. And very nice lift out on the lane that time, and see the result. That's the result from a very well lifted ball out into the lane, and that's good pin action for Judy. She's kissing the towel. Could this be the start of a spirited comeback by Judy McRae? She's only 16 pins behind now, 30 pins a little while ago, but cut that deficit down by 14 virtue of the strike, and can just about take the lead now with another strike in the 6th frame. Good match here, and
certainly is a good
very
match.
Important. Only 8 pins separating these two after the second game of the Coca-Cola Newcastle Open.
We're at the Bennetts Green Bowl. This lady's all the way from Blacktown in Sydney.
Oh, good, good
go?
lift again.
Nope.
She's pushed it to the side, and it's made it just a slightly more difficult spare now. She's got quite a gap between those two pins. You'll notice that the pins have shifted apart because of that spinning pin. So Debbie Biviano trying to capitalise on that now. Good lift out on the way. A bit too ill-directed that time. Not happy with herself.
It's a matter of keeping consistent form in this type of sport, isn't it? You can not get away with a couple of good shots. You've got to be good all afternoon.
Yes, it's such a difficult sport, and that's the problem that I thought she'd have. Consistency. Trying to get that ball down the lane nicely and smoothly the same way each time.
We've spoken on previous weeks, Steve, about the ball actually slides for a distance before it gets up the momentum of rolling, doesn't it? And it's important to judge between how much slide and how much roll you do get.
Yes, that's right. That's where the experienced bowlers come into play. That's when they will take the lead over the less experienced people. The lanes are oiled each day, probably a couple of times a day in the centre that you play at, and they're double oiled in the heads area. That's the area where the ball lands first up. That slides through there, then it takes off, and then it really turns down that far end. But the girl's having a little bit of trouble finding the way in. Debbie Biviano, a handy leader after 6 frames.
Left 2 standing. The perfect delivery is what? The hook delivery, the straight delivery, or the one that you handle best, I suppose?
The one that you handle best, the one that you're comfortable with. A lot of bowlers take the game up. Not everyone's going to become a champion, Lee. They'll reach their own level of proficiency, their own level of enjoyment in the game, and they'll take it from there. But obviously, a hook ball has more chance of you achieving success if you can master that one than a straight ball does. Pin action is very, very important. I guess Bob Cook and you discussed the number of pins that a ball hits when you get a strike, and the ball will hit only 4 pins. The pins have to do the rest of the work, and obviously if the ball is turning and hooking into the pins, you'll get a lot more reaction down the back end.
Sure.
Well, Judy McRae now hoping that this one's going to be a good shot. She needs to have a relaxed grip. See, a good grip there. She's got that index finger pointed out sideways, but she's pushing the ball a little bit astray.
Oh.
In that push away. She's just coming over the top a little bit towards the left instead of pushing it right. Let's have a look at Debbie Biviano now. I'm sure you'll find that she pushes the ball away to the right of her body. Yes, she does. And she's got it out nicely on the lane. Should be a good result. Certainly was.
Certainly was. The remaining pin, the 10 pin, just managing to stay on its feet.
Yeah, sometimes you wonder how. 3 pounds 7 ounces, they shake so much, but they don't always fall over.
Pointed out before that the pins are, and everything else about the game is so scientifically balanced that they are all within limits and shape and size and weight and the whole bit, aren't they?
Yes, and they've been this way, that the pin shapes have been like this since the early 1900s in America. Hasn't been a great deal of change in the game, but of course we do have faster pin spotting machines. That's the automatic gadgets that put the pins up and down and sweep the fallen ones away. We've got the AccuScore, the computer scoring now, but generally the game's pretty much the same as it was in the late 1800s, early 1900s.
It's Judy McRae.
24 pins behind. Coming into the 9th frame, she'd like to start making some inroads here. She needs those 20 bonus pins for the winner. The top 2 after 7 games will be bowling our final match in the Newcastle Open. So it's important that they win their games, and if they're losing, it's important that they bowl as high a game as possible.
Sure, get as many pins over, because that has a great bearing on where you finish, doesn't it?
Well,
bonuses for winning, but you must knock the pins over. Just not quite able to get them to scatter as often as they'd like. Steve, the pace of the ball we discussed, I discussed with Bob Cook earlier on. There is an ideal pace, not too hard, not too soft, I imagine.
Yeah, again, it's a case of what's right for you. Obviously, a taller person is going to bowl the ball a little bit faster. It's very difficult for a tall person not to take bigger steps and also to have more of an arm swing because of their longer arms. Debbie's got a pretty good speed on the ball, actually. I think that would be, I suppose, arguably, that would be an ideal speed.
Right.
Well, 24 pins the difference still. Coming into the 10th frame, Debbie Biviano certainly looking the winner at this stage of the 20 bonus pins, but Judy McRae still has a chance. She needs 3 strikes in the 10th frame for 172. And Judy's a very strong bowling family. Lee, her son Donald, a very accomplished young bowler, and we'll be hearing a lot of him in years to come. Well, that's the first to do it. That could be the first of 3, and that puts the pressure on Debbie Biviano. Debbie won't want to put too many feet wrong in this first ball of the 10th. If she leaves a nasty split conversion, she'll be in trouble. Concentration.
Looks where she wants to deliver and does just that.
Well, you don't answer a strike any better than that with another strike.
Great camaraderie between these bowlers, isn't there?
Yes, very, very good. And it's nice to see that in an individual sport because, well, I guess you see it in golf and tennis sometimes, not all the time in tennis, do you?
We know a couple of notables that don't do it.
But certainly in golf, they have this sort of camaraderie in golf, and they have that because they know what the other person's going through. They've been through it a million times themselves. And I can tell you, having bowled in the tournament here, it's very, very difficult when you're out there on your own.
What's the idea to, I guess, again, handle it the way you handle it best, but to stay alone, aloof, or...?
Yeah, I think to stay alone and aloof, try to master your own game.
Yes. Suited you in your career?
Yes, it certainly did. I played my own game. I knew if I was on top of my own game at various stages that there weren't too many people that could come close to it. There's not much you can do when the opponent's gone through the nose and cashed for a strike or started with a 6-bag. You can't do anything about that. All you can do is get the 6-bag yourself and just hope that on the 7th shot you keep on striking and he doesn't.
Right, sure.
But a good game, that one. 186 for Debbie Biviano. She picks up the 20 bonus pins and she beat Judy McRae by only 14 in the end when Judy struck out for 172.
3 strikes at the 10th frame to Judy McRae, but not enough after leaving open frames in the 1st, 2nd and 6th. Strikes in the first 2 frames for Debbie Biviano, and she led all the way, leaving no open frames.